Please welcome to the stage Cedric Habiyaremye, winner of the 2018 World Hunger Leadership Award.
Hello, good morning, everybody. How is everybody doing? My name is Cedric Habiyaremye. I'm from the beautiful country in Africa. It's called Rwanda. Anybody has been to Rwanda? Oh, nice. I see some people have been to Rwanda. So, Rwanda is situated in the Central East Africa. It's a small country neighboring with Congo, Uganda, Burundi, and Tanzania. Growing up in Rwanda, I was sheltered from adversities a lot of less fortunate children were facing in their everyday lives. But my family were well-to-do family, but later on, as the time goes, in 1994, my country was hit by the genocide. Some of you may have read or learned it in the history, which took a lot of lives and caused a lot of people to be displaced. I was 7 years old that time. And it got to the point where we lived in a refugee camp for 3 years. Life in a refugee camp was not a life. It was a survival mode because there was no food, no water, clean water, just go in the swamps and drink water from the swamps. And, oh, there is a clicker here. I didn't know that it was here. So that was me. It was me at almost 7 years old. And then life in a refugee camp, it gets really bad because it was compacted, no access to hygiene, no food. And we'll go in the swamps and go drink that water. So imagine what would happen after that. A lot of disease, a lot of people die from disease, and with that hunger, it was terrible. However, later on, United Nations agencies started providing food and shelter, including World Food Programs and the United High Commission for Refugees providing shelter, and the World Food Program providing food, and UNICEF started providing some basic needs for children, schools, and stuff like that. But life continued to be very hard to the point we decided to move back to Rwanda. Arriving in Rwanda, of course, a war-torn country, you know what you would see. There was, even though there was not a lot of killings, the genocide has stopped, but there are still a lot of consequences associated to that, to the point I lost my dad, and poverty, hunger, and the starvation and malnutrition continued to persist. So this is the place I grew up in. And all those consequences, all those issues, the life I lived, they hit me really bad, my brother and I. I'm the youngest of the family, but they hit us so bad to the point we get so desperate. Life had no meaning for us. There was no point to live. Spending 2-3 days, no food. Why can you even wish to live? And my mother saw the despair in our eyes, and she was so tough in those times. And I still credit her. The man I am today, it's because of her. Because she saw that despair, but she didn't let our circumstances define us. And she told us, I see some potential in you. This is not the end of your lives. When you survive this, you can become anything you want to become. You can save the world. You are the future of this country. You can contribute a lot in the development of this country and stability. And those were very harsh and hard words for a hungry child to digest and even understand. You're talking about future, saving people's lives, and even the present moment was abstract, so there was no future. And my reaction wasn't good that time because I was so upset and angry, and I left the room, and she pulled me back. She said, I see you are upset, but the only way to get there is to go to school and study. You can become anything you want to become. You can make the impact you want to make. And I was like, she's talking about future again and school. What is this, And I left the room and I went outside of the house and cried a lot. My brother was brave enough. He stayed there and he heard what she was telling him. And he came and joined me in the crying party, I can call it that way. We cried a lot. We gave out each other shoulder to cry on. And later on, I asked him, so what do you think really what my mom was saying? And he was like, I think maybe she's right. Let's wait and see. I was like, so you are taking her side now? So I started seeing it as they're teaming against me. And I asked him, what do you want to do if we survive this? My dad was a pharmacist, businessman, and he was like, people are dying around us. Maybe I will study pharmacy and finding ways I can be able to give medicine to people so they stop dying. And he gets to me, it was my turn to do what I want to do when we survive that. And I told him, we are hungry, we don't have food. Maybe I will start agriculture, learn ways that we can produce a lot of food so children and family will never go to bed hungry anymore. I was 11 years old and he was 12, and we did the pinky promise that we're going to stick to our dreams. So that's when my passion and the love for agriculture came from. But again, I started getting scared because I'm like, what am I signing up for? School was expensive. When I say expensive, you may laugh at me, but it was too expensive for us to afford. School was, if you look at the currency today, was like 25 cents. But we couldn't afford it. But I managed to do that with a business idea I had at a young age, like 11 years old, and I started that business. I could be able to afford school and pay for school and go to study agriculture and be able to grow food so that my fellow Rwandans, my fellow beloved people won't go to bed hungry anymore. So imagine going to school, you're hungry, you are poor, sometimes, I don't know, some of you have experienced hunger. When you're hungry, it's the worst feeling ever. Your joints are weak. It's hard to walk. You can't even sleep. It's so bad. But we go to school, bare feet, walk miles and miles, hungry, and come back home. You get those maybe like they give you an assignment or homework. You run home to be able to do it before it gets dark because a house like this, no electricity. And sometimes when it gets dark, it's done. So, but we managed to continue to excel in school. And I pursued my dreams. There I was graduating for my master's in crop science at Washington State University. So this was one of the best moments in my life because that's when I started realizing that my dreams are on their way to become true. Things started being unfolding. And I continued the PhD. I was offered for a PhD Washington State University. And looking how fortunate I was and how things are happening, I realized that there is something I can do. Because I believe in not just food security, but nutrition security. When we talk about food security, most of the time, nutritional security is overlooked. People don't think about that pretty much. However, I do believe that proper nutrition drives stability, prosperity, and resilience in any community and nations. That's when I introduced quinoa in Rwanda. Quinoa, some of you, anybody who eats quinoa here? Oh, everybody, pretty much. You guys are going to, I see, that's good. So I'm not going to take much about quinoa then, since all of you knows about it. But with my research team at Washington State University, the Sustainable Seed Systems Lab, we worked together. We worked on a project to test and introduce quinoa in Rwanda for the first time to see how we can contribute in providing staple nutrition. Some few who may not know about quinoa, quinoa is a crop that has a complete protein and a good package of micronutrients, and it's the only crop you can find so far that has all the 9 essential amino acids. So imagine a country where people don't have access to protein and nutrition, and where children are highly affected by stunting and micronutrient deficiency. Growing that crop that has that package, and also the crop that has high adaptability in different agroclimatic zones with harsh conditions, even poor soil conditions, it can still manage to give yield. It's one of the solutions. So we work with farmers. I recently started a company called Quinoa Hub, where we do research on quinoa production and distribution. But we know that our primary people to work with are farmers in the community, because we want for them to have access to nutrition. It's not just as a business, but it's as a community capacity building. And those farmers, because it's a new crop, we want them, after they grow it, to have, we want to be their to provide a market for them, so they have where to sell it and establish a market in the country and even in the region. So that's what we do at the Quinoa Hub, promoting quinoa research, but also intercrop, making sure that quinoa fit in the rotational plans of the existing farming system, and also the diet of the people in the country. I work with a team of people that because most of the time I'm here, I'm based in Washington State, pursuing my studies, expecting to defend my PhD thesis in July 25, so it's happening soon. Wish me luck. And on top of that, that person there on the far left of your left is my dear friend, Olivier Ndairamije, who is there always for me, and I can give him all this credit because he takes care of the project and makes sure, is all the needs and he meets all the farmers and be there for me in everything. However, I also have the queen of quinoa here in this picture. That's my mother. She's the one who is doing a lot of, also she's supporting with she's the big now extension agent. She's the one cooking different style of quinoa, making different products to see that fit in the community. And now her nickname is the Queen of Quinoa. It's not just a nickname I just give away. So saying this is looking how agriculture has evolved with time and still being overlooked when you look into maybe people in my generation, the youth, especially in developing countries like Rwanda. It's so sad. Why? Because we come from maybe poor families and or farming families, but a few people are interested in taking their career into agriculture. And yet we get hungry, we want to eat. We want something, agriculture is seen as a pillar of development of any nations. And any nation everywhere in the world, feeding its people should be their top priorities. But that is not possible if that is not backed up with youth involvement, because I believe that all the movements that have been successful and making impact in the world were youth-led movement. And I'm calling all the youth everywhere where they are to remember their roots, but knowing that their basic need is agriculture, food, and if we can develop that sector in Rwanda, Africa, and other countries under development, or undeveloped countries, that agriculture coupled with nutrition will drive resiliency, stability, and prosperity. And we will have a healthy society, because we know that lack of nutrition, at the end of the day, when you look on the population pyramids of a lot of developing countries, they are all dominated by youth. Imagine if all those youth went under, were affected by malnutrition. We know that malnutrition leads to stunting, affect the brain development and our capacity, the way we process things. Don't you think we will end up having unproductive societies in the long term? The best way to mitigate that is do everything we do agriculture, think about nutrition as part of it. Because I know how it feels to be hungry. I've been there. And I know how it feels to be malnourished, because I've been there too. In closing, I'd like to thank Davis Wright Trimin for having me here and giving me the opportunity to share with you about my journey in agriculture. And my interests are into international agricultural development in any way possible, focusing on research, development, and policy. And no doubt my dreams are on their way to become true. Thank you, everybody, for your kind attention.